Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So over the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in backyard weddings and Airbnb weddings and micro weddings and just a lot smaller, more intimate style weddings. So today's video is about 10 questions to ask yourself if you are considering a backyard or Airbnb style wedding. I did a video a while back all about backyard weddings. It is a rather lengthy video and I kind of go into a lot more detail on a lot of these topics that we're going to touch on today. So if you need a little bit more information, if you want a little bit more detail on the topics that we talk about regarding backyard weddings, I'll link that video above if you want to check that out. But today is going to be a little bit more concise, still touch on a lot of those same topics, but it's going to be a little bit more concise, more checklist style format for having a backyard wedding. Kind of obvious, but is your backyard big enough? I think a lot of people might, think the idea of a backyard wedding is really nice and that you could potentially fit, a decent amount of people in your backyard, but it's really important to actually do the work and the research and the measuring and make sure that it's going to be 100% feasible to have the event that you have in your mind before you even start to make any other plans, inviting people, anything like that. Physically go measure the space that you plan to have your event in, like if that is literally your backyard. Make sure that you're getting the measurements and that you can put that into a digital format and create an actual layout. There are several online platforms that you can do this where you put in the measurements of your space and you can actually create a digital floor plan and layout so you can actually see tangibly how many tables you can fit in the space and how many people you would actually be able to fit. This might sway your decision on whether you are going to have a backyard wedding or not, as you'll see how many guests you can include, and if it's less than what you're wanting and hoping for, then you might need to go a different route. So there's websites such as All Seated or Social Tables that you can utilize. There's free versions where you can kind of put in those measurements and be able to create an actual digital floor plan. Number 2, is there a backup plan option? So I am huge on backup plans as a wedding coordinator. This is something that I always have with my couples. And what I mean by a backup plan is like a rain plan, weather plan. If you are getting married all completely outside in a backyard, what happens if you wake up on your wedding day and it is really rainy, or it happens to be super cold and you don't have a place for guests to be comfortable or to be sheltered? You need to have some sort of backup plan. And if it's in a backyard, likely your backup plan is going to end up being your home. And that's probably something that you don't want to do, or the home of whoever you're having, whoever owns the property that you're having the wedding at. And this can be really difficult as depending on the home, it's likely not going to be a good option to be able to have everybody in one space. So I highly recommend having a tent if this is something that you are able to do and able to fit in your backyard, but make sure that there is some type of backup plan, and is that going to be an option for you if you were to have a backyard wedding? Number 3, is there a place for guests to park? Parking is probably one of the biggest challenges when it comes to having a backyard wedding or Airbnb wedding, and something that a lot of couples don't think about until it's a little bit too late. So make sure that there is a plan for parking, whether that is physically on site or having some sort of other plan that includes a transportation or shuttle service so that you can get guests to your space without having to clog up all of the streets. Number 4, are there enough restrooms for your guests? Are you planning on using your home restrooms for your guests? If so, are there enough? So typically a good rule of thumb is 1 restroom per 30 to 40 guests. So if you're having a guest list of 50 and above, over 100, you want to make sure that you have several restrooms. So whether that is allowing guests to go inside to use the restroom or bringing in porta potties, restroom trailers, whatever that is, have some sort of plan for your restrooms and make sure that that is going to be feasible. Number 5, is there space for the ceremony and the reception? I know a lot of people, they think of the wedding and they think of having it in a backyard, and your mind immediately goes to the reception and making sure there's enough room for tables and all of your guests. But you have to remember that there is a ceremony and a reception space that needs to be present. And if there isn't enough room for both of them simultaneously, so to have your ceremony space set up while also having your reception space already set up somewhere else, that means you're going to need to do a flip. So that would be turning your ceremony space into the reception space. So moving chairs out of the way, moving tables in. If this is something that you are going to be doing, is there also an additional space where guests can go so that they're not going to be in the way during this flip? So Not only do you need to make sure that you have enough space for your ceremony and also make sure you have enough space for your reception, but for those two items to happen simultaneously and or have some sort of plan so that you can do a flip. Sure, you might have enough room physically in the space, but you have to keep in mind all of the extra bodies that are going to be there on the day and what you're going to do with all of your guests in order to get them out of the way to flip that space if that's something you need to do. Number 6, are there any noise ordinances in your area? Do you live in a residential area where your neighbors are nearby? There might be some noise ordinances that are in play, and that's something that you need to do some research on and make sure that you have the ability to even have this type of event in that space. This might mean looking up what decibel music has to be at, and there's likely a certain point in the night where it has to be below a certain level or you have to have music completely off. So see what rules apply for your area. Number 7, is there enough electricity to support this event? You need to make sure that there are several outlets and ideally on separate circuits. You don't want to completely blow a fuse and lose power completely when you think of all the things that need electricity at a wedding. So if you're having any type of lighting, which you likely are going to do, it's going to be outside, DJ, music, hookups, likely your caterers might need some sort of electrical hookups, sound for ceremony as well, speakers, microphone, music. There are a lot of things that are going to require electricity and you need to make sure that is going to be feasible and that there are electrical hookups placed in convenient locations with regards to where you plan to have your ceremony and or reception. Number 8, is there space for a dance floor? In a backyard, it's likely going to be grassy area, maybe uneven area, and this goes for also setting up your tables and chairs, but also for a dance floor. Is there an area to actually have a dance floor? Is this something you need to bring in, where you bring in, like purchase an actual wooden dance floor and make sure you have a level space for that? Or do you have like a patio area that you can have? Highly recommend having a specific area for the dance floor so that no one's tripping, rolling an ankle, or having any sort of mishaps on your wedding day. Number 9, do you have people that will be able to help you with setup and tear down? When doing a backyard wedding, you're likely going to need to bring in a ton of rentals as far as tables, chairs, linens, pretty much everything, bringing in from a third party from a rental company. And while you can pay to have them deliver, not all rental companies will have the option to set them up for you. So it takes a long time to set up tables and chairs if you plan to have a larger wedding, and you want to make sure that you have people that are going to be there to help you not only with the setup and the actual setup of the tables and chairs, but tearing it down afterwards so that it is ready to be sent back to the rental company. The last thing you want is to be stuck with these tasks either the morning of your wedding on your own or the morning after your wedding when you just partied all night. The last thing you want to do is stack and break down tons and tons of tables and chairs. And number 10, is there a space to get ready? You want to make sure that if you're having a backyard wedding, you're probably going to want to be on site and have a space where not only you can get ready, but also the bridal party and the people that will be with you. So if you're doing hair and makeup and having them come to you, you want to make sure that there is a space that will allow for this to happen and allow for all of you to fit. Again, good electrical hookups. Lighting is another thing. You want to make sure that you're in a space that has good lighting or access to natural light. And also, if you plan to have both you and your partner getting it ready on site, that there is a space for both of you to do that. And if you don't want to see each other, be able to be on separate areas so that that is not going to be an issue. So think through the getting ready space as well. I think backyard weddings can be so cool and intimate and a way to really personalize your wedding as well. And we have seen an increase in this over the last couple of years, a lot of it due to factors out of our control, but it has kind of increased this trend in Airbnb, micro, and backyard style weddings. If you're thinking about having a backyard wedding, hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.